Hello everybody, this is Sylvain Rochon, the Peaceful Revolutionary. Another week has passed, and here's another video. Now, this week I didn't want to do... I always talk about science and stuff that are scientific related because, I mean, that's my thing, right? I love facts, I love discussion around facts, I love scientific discovery, technologies, everything that's going to enable us to advance as a civilization. But once in a while, I like to just talk about something that is scientific related, but also more speculative or more surrounding opinions. Around my opinions, mostly, of course, but you know, I source from the web and from discussions and a whole bunch of materials. And so today, again, I was inspired by some articles. I'm always inspired by articles and people that keep in touch with me, but. I want to ask, like, where are all the extraterrestrials? Good question. As a lot of people, like myself, we believe that the universe is populated by extraterrestrials. They exist. I mean, my own philosophy and religion, I guess, the Raelian movement, its core belief is that we were created by extraterrestrials that have advanced to a certain degree of science, you know, and able to use genetic engineering and create life here, like an experiment, and then so on and so forth. You know, our history has evolved from that, with us believing there were gods at a certain point, and they sent prophets to kind of guide us philosophically at different periods, and that's why we have the scriptures. We have like words like angels, and we have gods in our vocabulary, and we have these personified God figures throughout our history, and they have names and whatnot. Anyway, I don't want to get into that kind of discussion, but I mean that's my belief, and many other people believe in something similar to that, or at least that we are visited. So we come back to the question: where are they? Where are these extraterrestrials, these beings that have traveled here from outside the solar system or inside the solar system, as some people believe? And why don't they show up? Why doesn't the SETI program pick up on transmissions that are reliable, that don't end up being satellites orbiting the Earth and things like that? And so it's a great question, right? If you base yourself on Drake's equation, and some of you may have heard of it, and I'm linking stuff below as usual. It's very unreliable. I mean, some people can make assumptions using the great Drake equation, and come up with a positive number. And for those of you who know the Drake equation, how it works, is that it's a calculation of probabilities of having life appear elsewhere, and it's based on a bunch of assumptions on the galaxy and what we observed here, like the conditions of the planet, and the probabilities that there's an Earth-like planet elsewhere with the right distance from the sun, and time, the age of the planet, all sorts of stuff, and that was like in the 50s that this or the 60s that this equation was brought up by Frank Drake, a scientist that was looking into things. And but the truth is, you can get like a number that's super high. You can get a number super low. And if it's super high, it means that the galaxy and the universe is abundant of of life, some of which will be intelligent. And if the number is super low, like small fractions, then you know we're likely the only intelligent life or life at all in the observable universe. So it goes from one extreme to the other. So until we can adjust the parameters through discoveries of other life in a way outside our solar system, the Drake's equation is really just a tool to assume things. It's really kind of useless. And the article that kind of and Drake's equation is kind of overused. So let's put that aside. It's not useful. What I thought was really interesting is the article that I received a couple of weeks ago, and again last week. So I received it twice. Was a comment that was made by a physicist called Brian Cox. Um, and actually, I'm gonna read. It's a very, very small article. I have the link below, but what he questions is that, well, given the high probability of extraterrestrial life existence in the endlessly massive universe, let's make that assumption. Why haven't we seen any clear evidence of it? Whether here on Earth or outside. I mean, there's all these stories from astronauts kind of observing things, but there's no clear evidence. Like, clear evidence would be, hey, how are you doing? I'm seeing something. It's an obvious thing, and everybody kind of knows about it, and it's clearly not something that's been built. It's confirmed, like really something solid, like rock solid. We don't have any of that. If that kind of proof exists, some people will say, well, it's all the militaries and the politicians are keeping that under wraps and under secrecy and telling stories and blah blah. Possible, of course, it's possible. And then there's the pyramids and things that we find on Earth that seemingly could not have been built by humanity a few thousand years ago. And so again, this is like speculation that there must have been extraterrestrial life that came here prior to. Personally, I love those assumptions. I try to bet on the winning horse. And I think if there's it makes a lot more sense that we have had contact with extraterrestrials, and that people that see things in the sky and the militaries and very well-known individuals that see things ad nauseum around the world and describe things that could not have been made by man. I mean, I tend to believe that we are visited. They're just really, really good, thanks to their own technology, at keeping quiet and not creating a panic and not being official. So that's my assumption. But if you look at like real theoretical science, there's no clear evidence of anything. So we're just assuming things, and we believe on things based on what we observe, what is unearthed. And for some people like myself, it's enough to kind of move forward with that and kind of just believe it until there is a clear evidence that kind of showed up. Now, what Mr. Brian Cox, Professor Brian Cox, I'm sorry, or Doctor, what he mentioned is that he started mentioning the Fermi Paradox. And the Fermi Paradox is a paradox that was described by Enrico Fermi in the 1950s. That essentially said that, if there's a high probability, assuming there's a high probability that there is a lot of extraterrestrial life in our galaxy, or at least in relative proximity to us, why is there a total lack of hard evidence of intelligent life having ever evolved outside the Earth? Like, we've been observing for a long time. And that's the Fermi Paradox, okay? There's high likelihood of life, but we can't find any evidence of anything outside of Earth. That's a paradox, right? The probabilities show, if you follow Drake's equation with reasonable assumptions, that there should be life out there we can detect. But nada, zilch, nothing, right? So he says, well, maybe I have an answer to that. And it's not pretty. It really isn't. Maybe that we can't detect, like at a distance, any life out there, like and it would require significant energy, like transmissions of different kinds from any kind of solar system outside of our solar system for us to detect anything, because of the wide and vast distances between stars. Like, if there's this requirement of this amount of energy from these civilizations that are probably out there, maybe it's a little bit like planet Earth. They had to go through a certain stages in their civilization, and before being able to construct and transmit these levels of energies to other star systems, they blow themselves up. Simply put, he mentions that maybe it's kind of a natural progression of civilizations, that when the science of achieving levels of energy precedes our ability to socially collaborate and keep it under wraps without blowing ourselves up. It's a pretty interesting view on life in general, intelligent life in general. If you can call it intelligent, we're able intelligent life. He's saying essentially that maybe intelligent life inherently is unable to keep control of the power of energies, energy type development, without blowing themselves up, without creating bombs and creating accidents that just basically decimate everything. I would assume that some survive this stage. I certainly hope so, because we're on the crux as a humanity on Earth. We have energy and energy sources, and that would allow us to completely nullify all life on Earth. We've had this power for a long time, and we're even better at it now. So is it going to be our turn soon to actually disappear? I mean, I have my personal opinions. I don't believe every possible life is that destructive. I believe that some civilizations perhaps grow out of their destructive behaviors before they gain the technology capable of destroying them. But that's just an opinion. Mr. Cox submitted this opinion because of the Fermi Paradox. It's like, well, how do you describe this paradox? Well, maybe it's because each civilization blows themselves up when they reach what is called a type 1 civilization, right? And this is the Kardashev scale, and I have a link for that as well. So essentially, the humanity is at a little bit beyond 0.7 of a Kardashev scale, and the Kardashev scale is just a measure of between type 1, type 2, type 3 civilizations, and there are extensions of that. It just describes like what kind of energy are we harnessing here, and type 1, and we're not quite there yet, is a civilization that is able to capture or use and store a substantial amount of energy that is available in the sun. So using renewable energies, using fusion power, and also what's mentioned is also being able to use antimatter, which is even more powerful than fusion, and also more dangerous, of course, because it's higher grade levels of energy. If it's not using the control matters, it can really be super destructive, just like fission bombs are. Like right now, we can do bombs, nuclear bombs that are 1,000 times or more powerful than the Fukushima bomb. Not Fukushima, sorry, the Nagasaki and Hiroshima bombs of 1945. We've progressed quite significantly in our destructive power, but a type 1 civilization is a little bit beyond that. It's able to more substantially use the resources of the sun, and technically their type 1 civilization is no longer using fossil fuels and things like that from the Earth. That would be classified more like a type 0, which is an extension of the Kardashev scale. A type 2 civilization, which is way beyond in our future, is able to harness all the energy pretty much available in a solar system. And you're usually using type 1 energies across multiple solar systems. So as you can tell, we're not there yet at all. And a type 3 civilization is basically the same thing, but at a different scale. It's on the galactic level, so able to manipulate pretty much everything that is contained in a galaxy simultaneously. So you're able to kind of scoop up star matter directly and use it in certain mega processes. And antimatter is really a reject, like a byproduct of what you're doing. Things like that. I mean, we're talking about a long way out. So if you think about a type 1 civilization, which we're approaching, um, I mean, it's really easy to just destroy all the life. Life is actually fairly fragile if you think about these levels of energies. I mean, just a coronal mass ejection, which is something that occasionally happens with our sun. It shoots off in space, lots of radiation, lots of solar matter kind of ejected quite far. And if it's directed directly at the Earth, just without hitting the Earth, because the mass, the matter itself doesn't necessarily hit anything, just being close in the right direction. I mean, you destroy all technology on the planet and perhaps even burn up the atmosphere. And that's a naturally occurring phenomena. That's not that's not even us pressing the big red button and blowing stuff up. So just to give you an idea of the power of the atom and the power of fission and fusion, I mean it's terrible. And at the same time, it could allow us to free humanity from every labor, automate everything, and we could have a lot of fun if we control it, if we collaborate as a society worldwide. We can go beyond that destructive potential and just use that energy wisely and smoothly to advance our society through science. And that's what we want. But the article, Dr. Cox kind of suspects that, well, maybe that's basically just a pipe dream. We're just going to blow ourselves up anyway because we can't see any civilizations out there that have gone past this stage. My opinion and suspicion, and I hope others are optimistic like I am, because there's no sense in being pessimistic about this. We have control over things to a certain extent as civilization. Like I mentioned many times, we don't have the power of one. We have the power of many, right? Many voices. Nobody wants to blow anything up. Nobody wants that. Everybody wants to have a happy life. Nobody wants to do harm to other people, unless we're being told that that's how we can protect ourselves and loved ones, and that's how governments and politicians and sometimes corporations and whatnot provoke people into a violent state. It's by giving them fear, making them afraid, and then they're willing to aggress or protect themselves. But that's a whole different story. I get into that into a lot of videos. I think the extraterrestrials are in fact out there. They're just, some of them may have blown themselves up. And that's totally reasonable. You and I can understand that. But some have not. But they are, given the time span involved in a galactic scale timeline, which I believe is infinite, there's probably like a number of years difference in scientific progress between every civilization that is potentially here in our galaxy. And those that didn't blow themselves up, that are type 1 or beyond, they have the technology to be silent running, essentially. They don't necessarily advertise themselves. They want to be left alone, and they want us to grow wiser before we make official contact, before we know for sure there are civilizations out there. Perhaps because they want to avoid us becoming going on the war path and being afraid of the other more advanced civilizations, and starting to build spaceships or space missiles to try to defend ourselves, and becoming belligerent in our defense because we watch too many movies and think that they're going to come someday for our resources and our water. Whereas they have like way more technology. Like, they don't need the planet Earth, man. I mean, they can deal with all sorts of planets that have no life on it everywhere else. So I think they're just being cloaked and being wise about it. It's like, well, let's not freak them out. Let's just avoid just avoid their radars completely, and just sometimes discreetly give them a sense that there is something out there by sending little spaceships and reminders and crop circles and whatever else. And also from archaeology, there's old structures that give us doubt. At least it gives us a sense that there is potentially another civilization out there that is watching. And of course, some civilizations, including the Elohim, they have different names, but those advanced civilizations that advanced civilization that created us a while ago through science, I mean, they want to reconnect with us, but they want to do it when we are beyond that warrior stage of perhaps like, okay, they're here, and like, what do they want? We need to defend ourselves, kind of instinct. When we're beyond beyond that phase of our advancement, then they can contact us, knowing that we're interested in, and we understand that all the other civilizations are out there. They're not belligerent. They don't care about the planet. They're type 1 and beyond. They can use energy and resources from every planet on the galaxy. They don't need our person or our water. And the Earth is not unique, guys. There's nothing. It's not special. There's no aliens that will come to Earth because the water is super special and rare. There's no other water elsewhere. That's not true. We know this, and they know this way more. It's like, why would we bother them? They're barbaric. Their resources mean nothing to us because they can leverage the energies of the stars because they're more advanced. So they're just going to leave us alone until we grow out of that idea that everybody's going to try to attack them if we're discovered, and if we're discovered as being weaker. Just like, like, why would another civilization that can span all the solar systems, they have all the resources available of the galaxy and even beyond the galaxy if they need to, why would they specifically come to Earth and destroy us just to get to our planet? Or to enslave us weak beings that don't have a lot of technology to work for it? I mean, that makes absolutely no sense. They're just going to go to their neighboring stars and take whatever they need as far as resources there. That makes sense. But science fiction kind of creates scenarios that are fun to read, and we like to be scared, and we have all these scenarios that we like to be entertained with, and it's very Earth-centric. The Earth is a minuscule planet isolated on one arm of the galaxy, and it's a dime a dozen inside the galaxy. There are like hundreds of stars, of planets that we know of in our little part of the galaxy, and there's a whole bunch more that we don't even know of yet in our galaxy that are similar to the Earth. We're not unique, no problem. Okay. So get that out of your head, and if we are able to get that out of our head, that there's no one's going to attack us for our resources or for us or for our minds or anything like that. They're just waiting for us to wise up, in my opinion. And then they're going to pop up. It's like, okay, now that you're interested in collaborating and you understand that there's no danger for you from other civilizations, now we can shake hands and exchange. That's my opinion. Hence, that's why this video is an opinion video instead of a scientific one, even though there's always science in my videos. I'm posting a bunch of links below so you can explore a little bit more of the theories and different levels and things like that. And I would love if you guys would start thinking in a positive way from other civilizations instead of asking yourself, are we alone in the universe? Well, I would prefer to assume that we're not. Even if you believe in evolution, that's fine. The theory of evolution is a scientific theory out there. I don't want to get into it. I certainly think it's there are way too many holes in that that theory. I have a video on that explains it. But if you are an evolutionist, most people that are looking for the extraterrestrials are evolutionists. The Drake equation is based on the random appearance of life, and the probability of random appearance of life on other planets. That's how it's built. I just think the probability is higher if you assume that highly advanced civilizations would give birth to new civilizations, which means if there's one advanced civilization, it can give birth to several others and kind of spawn, you know, a chain reaction of younger civilizations through genetic engineering. So that increases the chances of life being out there. Anyway, that's my theory. So anyway, I'm going to leave you with that idea. I hope I'm bringing you to some kind of thought process that can be of value to you. Check out the links. Check out the different theories: Fermi's, Drake, Kardashev, and there's others. And make your own mind about, you know, are we alone? Where are they? Because it's all speculation, buddies. It's all speculation. We don't have concrete proof. If you do find very specific, rational proof, everybody wants to know. So send it in the links below in the comments. I'll read about it and I'll go through it. No problem. That's all I'm waiting for. So get it done. And in the meantime, have a good time. Enjoy reading, explore, and keep being yourself and making your own mind about stuff. That's the most important thing. For now, I'm off, but I wish you a great week. Ciao.